Hello there. Welcome back to the basement. Today, we are going to talk about this little article I found on Screen Rant titled Disney's Mismanagement of Star Wars Brutally Explained by Industry Insider. Oh, this is going to be fun. This article is by, got to give credit where credit's due, Molly J. Weinstein, published 2 days ago. So this is Sunday, so this was published Friday. She begins the article by kind of going over some known history. George Lucas changed pop culture forever in 77 with A New Hope, and blah, blah, blah. Star Wars remained under Lucas leadership until 2012, when the visionary filmmaker has sold his production company Lucasfilm to the Walt Disney Company. Chosen by Lucas, Indiana Jones producer Kathleen Kennedy leads Star Wars franchise. Yeah. Mistake one, George, but, that's for another day. She goes on to give some more known history. Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm brought several changes, which received mixed responses from the fans of the franchise. Understatement of the year there. Disney's plan included a Star Wars sequel trilogy that began with The Force Awakens in 2015. And they also began an anthology film series, which was Rogue One and Han Solo, and some streaming series on Disney Plus, critically acclaimed, such as The Mandalorian. While the success seen from The Mandalorian led Disney to pursue a full slate of live-action Star Wars shows that includes the recently released Rogue One prequel Andor, which I like, and the upcoming Ahsoka, which should be fire, the production of new Star Wars films is all but halted. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron was just removed from Disney's release schedule, and Taika Waititi's untitled film has yet to report any progress. I'm okay with that, considering what I saw in Thor 4. Love and Thunder. Holy crap, I've got a video on that if you want to check out my opinions on that, other than thank God Taika doesn't have a Star Wars script done yet, because I don't want him to. The move away from Star Wars movies has led some to question the franchise's direction and Kennedy's leadership. This person is really good at understatement. Some. Anyway, and quick aside, I know my voice sounds funky. I got me some sinus stuff going on with the weather change here in Michigan. Yay. Anyway, now reporter and Hollywood insider Matthew Baloney explains the main problem Star Wars currently faces. In a recent episode of his podcast, The Town, Baloney discusses Lucasfilm's current direction under Disney and gives a complete breakdown how he believes Kennedy has mismanaged the franchise, specifically looking at its film releases. This is his explanation, and this is a quote from him from his podcast. So, the following are Baloney's words. Even though Andor apparently is good, more than apparently for me, I say, this new Star Wars series that Tony Gilroy did, so keep that in mind. But I believe the management of the Star Wars franchise has been abysmal since Disney took over Lucasfilm. Preach, brother. And mostly on the film side. Preach again. If you go back now in retrospect and look at how they handled this franchise, it's awful. I mean, the fact that they rushed to get Force Awakens into theaters. First, it was supposed to come out in summer of 15. Then they finally acknowledged that, we're not going to make that. But they didn't delay it. They put it only into December of 2015. So they had to rush to finish that one. My notification's a lightsaber, deal with it. They had no idea what the next episode would be when they made Force Awakens. Good planning. That, I am told, was a J.J. Abrams decision, basically saying, let's just make this one good and then we'll figure out the rest. Then they let Rian Johnson do his episode, and he made a bunch of changes to the franchise that they didn't know how to deal with on the third in that trilogy. J.J. Abrams basically pulled the Emperor out of his ass. They were like, the big bad guy is going to be the Emperor, even though he wasn't in the previous two movies. So the management there has been awful. They have basically put a pause on the movies. Kathleen Kennedy has hired director after director to try to figure out what these stories are going to be. She hasn't had any plan that's worth greenlighting. The Rogue Squadron movie that Patty Jenkins was going to direct, that was officially taken off the calendar for next December, even though everyone in Hollywood knew that wasn't happening because they couldn't come up with a storyline they wanted to do. And that's despite having a big announcement where Patty Jenkins got up at an investor day for Disney and talked about how great her Star Wars movie was going to be, that they didn't know what was going to be yet. Okay, he phrased that oddly, but basically, they were making a huge announcement even though they didn't know shit about what was going to happen. It was a big PR mistake to do that. Duh. So I just think the focus on streaming over the last, they got very lucky that Favreau made The Mandalorian what it was, and all the other shows have sort of come in that vein, and they're fine. I don't know about fine. Book of Boba Fett. Ugh. Most of Kenobi. Yeah. But Star Wars is no longer special. The movies are dormant, and that's a big problem. I strongly believe they need a change at Lucasfilm. Translated, he thinks Kathleen Kennedy's a freaking moron when it comes to movie, and bitch gotta go. Yeah. As Baloney... Okay, now we're back to the writer of the article. As Baloney bluntly states, Kennedy's main problem is that she has no plans for new Star Wars films. Excuse me. The sequel trilogy, while commercially successful, can be criticized for imitating the original trilogy storylines, with the Emperor's Return and the dynamic between Rey, Finn, and Poe echoing Luke, Leia, and Han. Excuse me again. In light of such criticism, it seems the sequel trilogy owes its success to nostalgia. A tactic that Disney can't continue much longer. Forget that, they can't continue it at all. This is contrasted with The Mandalorian's immense success. That's because The Mandalorian rocks, and Filoni knows what the fuck he's doing. Unlike Disney's Star Wars films, excluding Rogue One, which I agree with, that one's the best one they've put out and is decent, The Mandalorian previously discarded previous Star Wars lines revolving around galactic strife and focused more on the solitary journey of Din Djarin as he attempts to balance his creed with his responsibility to the child he finds. This change in direction reinvigorated Star Wars in a way the sequel trilogy couldn't manage. Now, that's true. When The Mandalorian came out, and it was awesome, everyone was like, woo, there's hope, because unless you happen to be like new to Star Wars and are a sequel trilogy fan, which, you know what, if you like them, more power to you. As cinematic movies, they're pretty decent. As Star Wars movies, anyway. So it is obvious that Disney wanted to capitalize on The Mandalorian's success because all the franchise's upcoming releases are Disney Plus series following in that direction. Still, focusing on shows over movies wouldn't be a problem as Star Wars continues to explore new ideas like Andor's slick, mature tone in the spy thriller genre. I happen to agree with that. What is a problem is Lucasfilm not devoting the proper time or resources to create genuinely new stories, instead recycling material that relies on nostalgia. Exactly, get friggin' creative. Hopefully the removal of Rogue Squadron from the release schedule means that Lucasfilm's management has learned from its mistakes and that audiences can look forward to fresh ideas in future Star Wars films. Yeah, I don't have that kind of hope right now. But anyway, Mr. Baloney has that shit dead on. Kathleen's been screwing up way more often than not for a wide variety of reasons. It's not an argument I'm going to get into now, but at least when it comes to the specifics of her decisions, especially regarding sociological and cultural ones, because I know some people are a fan of that, of what she's been doing, some are not. I personally, screw it. Personally, me, I have no problem with a push towards diversity and inclusion, because, you know what? For two reasons. One, I feel art to a point should reflect the real world, because that makes it more relatable. And in the real world, guess what? All these people exist. They're all around. You know? And guess what? They're people. There's no reason to dehumanize them just because they might look different, act different, dress different, talk different, or what have you. So that's just a little quickie on inclusion and diversity. I'm a fan. However, Lucasfilm's problem is they've been sacrificing story and just writing things badly, which, unfortunately, is giving a certain segment of the population ammo to run with for their hateful bullshit. So, anyway, the crux is something that most of us believe. Kathleen Kennedy be fucking up, and she got to go. And it's nice to see that more people than just Star Wars fans acknowledge it. Hollywood insiders know it. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on that article. Hollywood Insider trashing KK. I'm all for it. Anyway, so let me know what you think about my thoughts on this in the comments. Please like, subscribe, share, and remember, there's always good times to be had when you're chilling in the basement.